Hi everybody, this is Matt Palumbo, and no, don't adjust your TV screens. I know many of you out in HCTV land are used to seeing me or hearing my voice doing Friday night football for our great hometown Explorers. Today we're going to do a little bit different, have an opportunity to meet some gentlemen who are running for school board here in Hudson in the election coming up in early November. Opportunity to spend some time with Matthew Clapper, Mark Justice, and Matt Romano and hear from them directly their vision about Hudson schools, why they're running, and give you an opportunity to just hear more about their plan. So with that, we'll get started. We're going to start with Matthew Clapper, candidate, and many of you too that tune in on Friday night will know the name Clapper. He's had a couple of kids, number 65 on this year's team, right? Jake Clapper, I believe, right?
Yes.
That's having a great season. So welcome to Hudson Community Television. Great opportunity.
Thank
for you to share some of the things about you.
Yeah,
and let's just kick it off right. Yeah, it's great to be here, and thanks for coming in. Just give you an opportunity, Matthew, to tell the folks a little bit about you and your time here in Hudson.
Perfect. Yeah. So my wife and I have been residents for 17, going on 18 years. Our children have all grown up here. They started in kindergarten, pre-kindergarten. Matthew, my oldest, just graduated last year. He played on the offensive line right next to Jake last year, his senior year. And he just graduated this past June. But he started in kindergarten and went every year through 12th grade here in Hudson schools. Jake started in kindergarten as well. He's now a junior, doing really well in school and playing, as you mentioned, playing football for the Explorers and looking forward to wrestle this winter for the Explorers. My daughter, my youngest, also started again at kindergarten, and now she is a freshman. So she is just starting the high school experience, really enjoying it so far. She was a little bit nervous coming into the big high school, right? As in middle school, you go through 8th grade and you're kind of the big kid in the school, and then you're back to the bottom again,
yeah.
Coming as a freshman. But
and your kids are big; they're not.
Yes.
Thankfully, I know Coach Goff likes that, so that's great.
Yeah, we were never short on size. You can just ask Jake. Jake will tell you about that, which is all right. But yeah, they've really enjoyed their experience here in Hudson. Love the community. The community is phenomenal. It's kind of like our extended home,
Sure.
Our extended family, really. We just love our neighbors. Just great friendships that we've had since first moving into the community. The kids have had, developed great friendships through the schools, and even starting in preschool. It's just our whole family and history have been here, so it's been great.
Sure. Well, good. And I know, obviously, public service is such a commitment. Anybody who runs for office, my hat is off to them because of the time commitment.
Sure.
So one of the things I always wonder, and really, is why. So why are you doing this? Why are you running for school board?
Well, I guess we've certainly received a lot from the community, from the schools itself. We want to. Personally, I'd like to continue the tradition of excellence. I mean, there is a gentleman retiring from the school board this year, so I'm running for an open position. And it's an opportunity for me to help kind of continue the high expectations that our community really enjoys from our schools. If it's one thing that I've learned, not surprisingly, but just reinforced over and over in my outreach to the community during this campaign, is that Hudsonites are really proud of our schools. They want high performance, high academic performance. High performance in activities, sports, athletics, with the band, the music program. Hudson is really proud of, its schools, and so, I'm here to continue that tradition of excellence, improve on it if I can, and I think we can, and basically, continue to provide for our students the, what Hudson has historically given to us.
Great, and I know from my experience in talking to folks, everybody wants great schools in Hudson. I mean, that's why
Right.
My wife grew up here. We've put 6 kids through the schools. And so people move here, right? So it's a treasure for us, and I think it's just a different approach on
Yeah.
to
Community.
yeah, the community, right. So it's definitely one of the great things about Hudson. So I had a chance, not a lot of time because we put this together pretty quick, but looked at some of your literature, and one of the things I saw, and I wanted to ask you about it, is back to the basics. Like, what is that? What do you mean by that when you say back to the basics?
Sure. So it's simply the core of it is refocusing a little bit on just the priority of academics, making sure that the fundamentals are well addressed, well covered, all the way from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. Mm-hmm. And that's something that it's really important. Historically, we've done that. Maybe slid a little bit. If you look at the state rankings, we're down slightly over the past 9-10 years.
I saw that. I was surprised to see that. But yeah.
Right. And I think most residents would be surprised that we've slipped a little bit. Not a lot, but mm-hmm. it's a trend we can reverse. Mm-hmm. Again, focusing at the elementary school level, early learning, early math, early reading, early writing can really, I think, provide the foundation. Small corrections there can provide a foundation that translates into the middle school and the high schools, and gets us back to, for instance, the top 10 ranking in the state of Ohio, and even better. Right. So yeah, that's one of the goals. For the idea behind getting back to the basics is simply refocusing on what Hudsonites really enjoy out of their schools is the academic excellence. I spoke to one gentleman who lives down the street from me. He was just delighted with the schools because his daughter had come out of Hudson School and was very well situated mm-hmm. when she went to college. And a lot of residents, feel that way, and they love the fact that the school system here supports the kids, gets them ready, and that's something that we're going to continue and, like I said, improve upon. The idea is really to make sure that the policies that the board sets are helping the teachers in the classroom so that the kids are getting the best that they can get and reaching their full potential. Mm-hmm.
Right. I look, I'm a competitive guy. There's a lot of competitive people in Hudson. I think it's just the nature of the community, which is good, sure. Right? So I don't care if it's the band or football or obviously sports, co-curricular, extracurricular. We want to be great at everything. And when you see those rankings, it's something like, hey, and we can definitely, we need to turn it around. And I think the back to the basics is, I get it. I think there's so many distractions right now mm-hmm. for kids out there, just mm-hmm. on the outside world. And people talk about the, we laugh about it, the old Hudson bubble, right? I'm sure you've heard that. Right?
Sure.
The bubble. Sometimes the bubble's good, right?
Sometimes it's good.
We can keep and start to refocus and turn things around. So. One of the other things on your literature too that is the fiscal responsibility, transparency type thing. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
I think everybody wants to be confident that their finances are being well cared for, well managed, being put to the classroom where they're going to be the most effective for the students. Number one, being put to the activities that the students gain a lot of enjoyment out, and really that help them form their identity and kind of reinforce what they're doing in the classroom. A lot of our coaches and like the band directors, they help focus on academics. There's mm-hmm. kind of like if you will, like almost like a check and balance where sure. we're going to put our time down on the ball field or whatnot, but we're going to check and make sure and kind of help guide your academics as well, and that's really great. But at the same time, I think the community deserves a school board that's just as diligent with their finances as the school is with our students. Mm-hmm. We should know that we're getting the best money for our dollars, that they're going where the community wants the school as an institution to go, mm-hmm. and so if I had maybe one minor criticism for the leadership at the school now, it's hard to see how they're spending the money. It's not very transparent. They'll tell you what they need and they'll tell you what they've got, but they won't show their work. they're not very good at showing their work, right? And so, and again, that's an easy to fix. You know, it's just kind of doing the diligence to just basically expose the budget to the community simply so that they're confident. You know, they can easily look at that and say, yep, that's, you know, what I want is where my dollars are going. And, you know, I think we can increase the support, you know, for finance in the schools simply by opening up the, you know, allowing people to see how the budget works, and then, you know, they have the confidence that their money's being well spent. And that goes a long way in a community, I think, particularly a local community.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that makes sense to me. I mean, one of the great quotes that I love, and the folks out there, I apologize. There's another football analogy, so
hey,
I just can't
right.
get away from
Football's
it. But,
in my heart too.
A great quote by Woody Hayes, the great Ohio State coach, is he always said, "You win with people," right? Yeah. And when I think of our experience in Hudson with 6 kids, and I just think of the teachers that have impacted my kids' lives, every single one of them, all the way from you know, their time when they were at Evamere and now at the high school. I mean, everything in between. So I think we've got to let these teachers. We have to support our teachers. Let our teachers teach, right? I think is the most important thing.
Yes.
And let them do their job because they're good at what you do. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a key. I mean, that's an essential key. You know, from a leadership perspective, I think that the board really needs to have an open door with our teachers, because they're the ones on the ground, they're the ones in the classroom dealing with students every day. And they're going to be, you know, if there's a change in course that needs to be, you know, minor or whatever, they're going to see it. They're going to see it. They're going to recognize it. And so, you know, having that open door to make sure that the teachers can give that feedback to leadership, so that the policies, the school policies, are, you know, supporting from above what the teachers are seeing in the classroom. You know, that's really an institution that you want. That's an organization that's functioning healthily. You know, where, you know, it's the school's policies are assisting the teachers in the classroom to basically to deliver on the promise of academic excellence, right? And so, you know, there should be a partnership between the board at the leadership level and the teachers in the classroom to deliver on that promise, you know, to make sure that every student is cared for, to make sure that every student is getting the best education and realizing their full potential. Another point that you know, I strongly support is, you know, parents need an open door into their child's education. So that way, you know, the instruction that the teachers are providing in the classroom is well reinforced around the dinner table with mom and dad. You know, and you know, I'm sure you know, kids come home in the evening with classroom. You know, if they're having a little bit of trouble with math or reading, you can sit down and help them out and work with them. And, you know, sometimes it's just that relationship between, you know, the parents kind of helping the kids out at home and what the teacher is trying to, you know, direct from the curriculum. When there's a synergy between the parents and the teachers, you know, the children really get their education kind of, you know, reinforced from the classroom at home, and it just helps to make a more permanent, you know, memory in their mind. And, you know, I think, you know, for my kids, definitely, that has been, you know, just one of the hallmarks of success. For instance, my son Jake is a brilliant kid. He's taken calculus already in high school, and you know, a lot of that's simply because he can see, you know, he gets it in the classroom. You know, I have a graduate degree in physics, so I did my years of calculus in high school and in college very similarly, and I can help reinforce that at home. And so having teachers or having parents an opportunity to work with the teachers to reinforce what they're doing in the classroom, I think that's, you know, one of the, you know, something that Hudson's been very good at, and that we're going to continue at, and make sure that open door is available for the parents who know their kids best. That's great. And what I hear you saying, I think, Matthew, is it's all about cooperation. Have that parent involved. Let the teachers teach, right? And then the other thing too, and we're running out of time, is I keep hearing again, not necessarily, you don't want the funding for the schools. You want to direct that money into the classroom where it's going to reverse those test scores and let those teachers do their thing, right? So I want funding for the best professionals, right? Right. But that needs to go to the classroom, and like I said, the community wants to know that we're being diligent with their finances,
Sure.
right? Some people are numbers people, other people just want to know somebody's careful with the numbers, and that's what I want to make sure that
Sure.
we're doing, show them what we're careful with the numbers, and that we're giving the teachers the resources they need in the classroom so that we can succeed.
Hey,
Yeah.
great stopping in. Appreciate you coming in and
It's been a
sharing
pleasure.
sort of the vision. Good luck. So we're going to bring in Mark Justice here in a few minutes, but thanks for tuning in. This is Matthew Clapper, candidate for Hudson School Board. Hey everybody, this is Matt Palumbo, and we're back with our special programming here. We're going to welcome Mark Justice, who is a candidate for Hudson School Board, and get a couple minutes to spend with Mark. And welcome to HCTV. Appreciate you coming in for this special program.
This is great.
So yeah, we'll start it off the same way, give you an opportunity just to, I know you're a longtime Hudson resident, very involved with the Science Olympiad, and share some of the things about yourself and your experiences here in Hudson.
Good deal. All right. So the wife and I have lived here for 22 years. Moved here because of actually proximity to the parks, but the schools, as with most Hudson residents, that was a big draw, right? We want to make sure our schools are great. I've got 3 daughters in our school system right now, ranging from 10th grade on down to 6th grade. So I'm living the life that the parents are living out there, right? Getting to softball games, getting to gymnastics practice, band practice, you name it. So very involved from that perspective. Personally, I'm an engineer, automation engineer, so I work with equipment. Specifically, I work with management teams and engineering teams and operations teams to try and find that happy medium to make sure that a system performs the way it's supposed to perform, and we get the best bang for your buck, if you will. So do a lot of that. Volunteering-wise, I spent a lot of time with the Hudson Science Olympiad team at the middle school. It's a great organization. Well led. There are almost 40 mentors that all are, parents that are contributing time and trying to help. And more importantly, though, there's 47 students, middle school students, that are all, working in this competitive environment with a STEM focus.
Right.
So it's
great.
A lot
So
of
let
fun.
me ask you, because I've always wondered. So how does that? Do you have a schedule that you go around the state with the team, the Science Olympiad? Is there one big event, or what?
No.
Is it the Olympics, or is it we're playing the Suburban National or whatever? I was always curious about that.
Great question. So there's 23 different events, but so at a typical tournament, if you will, and there will be multiple tournaments leading up to regionals and then states, and then if you do well, then all the way up to nationals. So it progresses up. But we'll participate in invitational tournaments. We'll be going out to Sylvania, out next to Toledo. We'll be going over to Pittsburgh. Solon's a big one, Mentor. So we'll go, schools host these tournaments, and so all of the students will load up on a bus. We'll head out to these locations early in the morning, and
that's great.
Spend the day competing in 1-hour time slots throughout the day.
That's wonderful.
So.
Well, let me know if I'm really good at scouting. So if you need some scouts to go out and check out the Solon team, somebody's working on the flux capacitor out there. How are we going to work against that? No,
it's very competitive. Yeah.
I bet it is.
Solon
Look,
team
I think that's
typically,
wonderful. 23 event. That's amazing. That's great. And wow, kudos to you. And I know I've heard we have friends that have kids over at the middle school in that program, and that's great. It's great. You got it. That's what I love about Hudson. Right? It's not extracurricular. It's co-curricular. It's so important to the education of the kids. These other things that the kids are doing in their spare time.
Absolutely.
So what's your why? Why are you doing this? Public service, lots of time. You sound like you're a busy guy. You got a lot of things going on. Why you want to run for school board?
So I think most Hudsonites we're all busy, right? We're either running kids around, or we're managing businesses, or any number of things, right? And so what's my why? At some point you want to give back to the community, and education is important to me. I was the first person in my family to earn an engineering degree. I went out and earned my way in trades before I went back to college and got my degree. So I bring kind of a different perspective than a lot of people do in the traditional path. And I think that's important to have, especially at the upper management level, and that's where the board comes in, right? That's the role they play. And so, this is, it just seems like a good fit. I'm spending some time volunteering in the middle school. I'm interacting with the children. I see how they react to the desire to learn, and right, that kind of feeds that want to give back in the education side of things. So yeah, it seems to me the best way that I can give back to my community and bring that perspective of a parent who's got skin in the game,
right,
and bring that perspective of a long-term resident who's also got skin in the game from that side of things.
So you're living it every day with the kids as we have. I mean, again, we had 6 that came through. We've got 1 left, and very, very blessed to have to move here to Hudson. Again, I looked at, much like with Matthew, I looked at, just as we threw this together, some of the literature that you had. Yeah. And one of the things I really struck me is, I just think a lot of distractions, Mark, for these kids right now. There's so many different things, whether it's the national news, the world news, these events that are, it's stressful to be a kid right now, and it breaks my heart sometimes when I think about it. Politics out of the schools. I think that's one of the things. It's a distraction for kids, and we talked about it with Matthew. Is let these teachers. So tell me a little bit about getting the politics out of the school, because I know that's been very big on your literature.
Absolutely, that's in my signature plate. Transparency in, politics out, and let the teachers teach. So what does that mean? Getting the politics out to me means. Our students deserve a learning environment that's free from all of those outside influences of the national politics, right? And our teachers deserve that as well. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure that we're managing the schools in such a way that we're not letting our personal politics infringe upon our teachers' ability to teach. And we need to make sure that that's not infringing upon the educational experience that our students are getting. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it's important to have balance in everything, right? I think most people would agree balance is important. And, to that end, just trying to make sure that as part of that balance, and I'm not saying that you need to balance the politics, I'm saying let's rather than trying to balance the politics, let's try and pull the politics back. Mm-hmm. We should be running our schools, teaching our classes, enjoying the educational experience without having to worry about all of those outside influences. And to me, that's at the core of it.
Right. Because, there's so many, if people want to engage in politics, there's so many other opportunities for them all over the place, right? Just put on 24-hour news now, and people are
and it's so polarizing.
It's polarizing.
That's the catch. And our kids need to be, in my opinion, it'd be nice if we could insulate our kids from that polarization, mm-hmm. right? As adults, going door to door, there's, it's great because in this environment, right, you can talk to people and you can have long conversations mm-hmm. with people that politically you don't agree with, but. Right. But you get online or on a phone, and now the polarizations go exponential. Sure. And so we've got that factor. Whatever we can do to try and insulate our students from that, mm-hmm. I think would be grand for them in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, and I think polarization, unfortunately, whether it's here or it's almost like it's an industry now, right? That people are, again, with social media and things. So I think and it also kind of, I think. The whole politics out of the schools goes to what Matthew Clapper talked about, getting back to the basics. Because if you get the distractions, I don't care whether it's in your job, and you're trying to perfect something. If you get the distractions out, it gives you more time to focus on what your core vision is and getting back to the basics. So I'm all for it. I think that's a great point. I know Matthew talked a little bit about this, and again, it's in your literature. Is the whole responsibility, fiscal responsibility, and transparency. So, if you want to maybe expand on that a little bit for the folks.
Yeah. So it's key in any management situation to make sure that you're tracking your expenses right, and that you're able to present how you're spending those dollars to the upper management, if you will. I work a lot from a project standpoint, so I'm working with teams that are upper management, engineering, and operations, and each group brings their own perspective to each project, right? They all have what they want out of this project, and so a role that I often find myself in is being that person in the middle that's saying, okay, I understand your perspective, and I'm able to see each person's perspective, but also kind of keep your eyes on the prize of, at the end, you've got to have a return on the investment. You've got to track your expenses so that are you hitting those key performance indicators? Was this a good path to go down? Do we want to do it again? And so from a transparency standpoint, if our residents, which are who we report to,
right,
if they're asking for specifics on how we're spending our dollars, then we need to be very, very forthcoming with that information. We need to make sure that that's easy for people to find. And if they have questions, we need to make sure that we're answering those questions well. And if we don't have the answers to give them, that's kind of an indicator that maybe we need to do a better job of tracking those expenses. And I think we're in that situation right now. We need to do a better job of tracking those expenses. We're asking taxpayers for additional funds, and Hudson will support our schools. We always have. But we need to make sure that give the residents the information that they're asking for so that they can feel that they can support additional funds.
Great. Talk a little bit, you mentioned a little bit, but obviously I think with your experience with the Science Olympiad, you get, and obviously having kids in the school, you have interaction with your teachers. I think of the teachers in my life, Beverly Weber in 8th grade, or Tony Russ, and I remember those, and still today fall back on a lot of the lessons that my teachers and coaches also played in my life, and even now as I'm raising a family and providing that sort of thing. Talk a little bit about the support, because that's again another thing in your literature, the supporting of teachers, having that relationship, the direct line to the teachers from the board.
No, and that's that's great, because just last night I was thinking about when I was in Cleveland on East 72nd. My elementary teacher, Mr. Donaldson. I still remember him from a few years ago, right? So
just a few. That's
just
right.
a few. So we've got the teachers have a huge impact on our students, and we've got to respect that. We need to make sure that we're getting the tax dollars that we're asking for from the residents are being directed towards those teachers, so that we know that's where it's going to have the biggest impact on our students. We need to make sure that we're listening to the teachers, and I think that's key. We can't just listen to the people we want to listen to, and that kind of ties into this the politics polarization aspect. I very much reject that. I need to listen to both sides. I need to listen to everybody, and when I see that a certain group are not being listened to, it hurts, and I want to make sure I'll go out of my way actually to try and make sure that I'm listening to every group. I think everybody deserves a voice, and especially our teachers. We need to support them by listening to what their feedback is. If need be, redirect our course accordingly, or if not, at least make sure everybody feels that they've got skin in the game, right? I'm here. I've got 3 daughters in our system. I've got skin in the game to make sure our schools are supported. That in the long term, that we're moving in the right direction. But I want to make sure that our teachers, that they feel that their voice is being heard as well.
Sure. I mean, and I think, and as we wrap it up, I think what I hear you saying, and similar to what Matthew said, is that it needs to be a cooperative effort, right? And that you have, I think it was on your literature, or maybe it was Romano who's going to come in here later, but a different approach, right? So it's just, you have a different way of looking at things, and I think everybody in Hudson wants to support schools and willing. It's been shown time and time again financially, people will support it, but you just have a different way of, you want to come in and have a different approach on how to do that, really to be transparent and responsible.
I think I bring a perspective that's a little bit different than what we have on our current board, right? You mentioned the Hudson bubble earlier with Matthew Clapper, and actually I'm from a little bit outside of that, right? So I grew up in Cleveland. I've grown up all over Ohio and other states. So I've been here 22 years, and I love Hudson, and this is home. But I bring a perspective that I think is a little different than the average resident. I'm very educational focused. I see a strong need to drive in that direction, but I want to make sure that we're doing that in the right way, that we're spending our dollars wisely, that we're being transparent, that we're listening to parents and we're listening to teachers, and when it's all said and done, we need to make sure that our students are getting the experience that they deserve.
All right, sounds good. Mark Justice, good luck to you, Mark. Thanks
All right.
for coming in.
Thanks, Matt.
Welcome back. This is Matt Palumbo. We're going to bring on Matt Romano. Welcome, Matt. Good to see you.
Matt,
Thanks
good
for
to
coming
see you.
in. And
Thanks for having me.
again, much like the Clapper name, those of you who tune in every Friday or most Fridays for Hudson Explorer football will know that name, Romano. Alex is having a great year, number 77 on that defensive line, doing a nice job for my good buddy Addison Carbone, and he's been an impact player.
Yeah.
So he's having a great year. We're looking
Yeah,
forward. We were just
been a
in the
blast.
break talking a little bit about playoff positioning, and everyone's excited when playoff time comes around.
Absolutely.
So I know I am as well. So Matt, just like we'll start it out just like with the other gentlemen. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, most important thing for running for school board, I'm the parent of two, proud parent of two Hudson students. One that is graduated now, went up from kindergarten all the way through 12th. He's a sophomore at Ohio State doing ROTC, so I'm really proud of him.
That's great.
Excelling at Ohio State too. And my younger one, as you mentioned, is a senior now on the football team, and he started kindergarten as well. They both went to preschool in Hudson, and that's the number one reason why I'm running. I'm a parent with the skin in the game, and I want to make sure that Hudson continues on with its academic excellence.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, and again, we talked about it with the other guys. Is people here love the schools. It doesn't matter if your kids have gone through it. My experience, anyways, is if you have a boatload of kids in the schools like we did at one point, or one now, or your kids are all grown. I mean, even the empty nesters that I know, look, they want good schools. It's good community. It's good for property values and all that. It's such a thing that you go around Northeast Ohio and people say Hudson, they think about the schools.
Sure.
So you got into a little bit, but maybe just the why. I always like to ask people, because look, public service. I just think if you're running, it doesn't matter if you're running for council, state rep, all the way up to federal office. Public service is a special calling, and you a big time commitment. Many times it's not a glorious position, right? But tell me, what's your why?
So I tell people, my wife and I are both big volunteers for Hudson. We've been in the community now for 18 years. My wife and I both grew up in Northeast Ohio, so we're familiar with the Hudson area to begin with. But having lived here, I say you get what you put into a community, and my wife and I are both big believers in that. I coached Little League growing up for Kiwanis. I coached Hawks football. I'm involved with the city. I was on the Personnel Advisory and Appeals Board for well over a decade. I'm on the Planning Commission now. So, you talk about public service, and you do it's a great experience, and it's a great way to contribute and put back to your community. This running for public office is a whole other level of it, really. I always tell people, too, that, every experience is different. What's been wonderful about this experience is getting to go door to door. I've probably close to 100 hours now of going door to door and talking to Hudson residents just about their feelings on the schools, what their personal experience has been, what their kids' personal experiences have been. Talked to a lot of teachers that teach here in Hudson and teachers who are in other districts, just going through my door to door. That's been a wonderful experience. From my standpoint, running for public office is the paramount thing that you can do to contribute back to your country and to, in this case, the community.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it is. There's a reason it's called public service, right?
That's right.
Because both of those words are critical, right? It is a very public position, and obviously it's serving. It's not. It's a time-consuming thing. And I kudos to. That's one of the things I think the unsung hero I think of Hudson in terms of child development is the great youth sports organizations that we have here, whether it's Kiwanis and obviously the other baseball groups, and that's been my experience. And obviously Hawks has been tremendous for my kids, and you see kids all over. In fact, it was funny because they just did the senior night at Hudson. We broadcast the game against Nordonia, and the public address, all the kids get to say what their greatest memory was in football, and a lot of them it was a Hawks experience.
Yeah.
Even though all those great games that they've been in.
Sure.
So it's great that I think that's great investment.
Well, it's important. I mean, the thing about Hudson is that there's so many parents that are involved, so many families that are proud to be here, and it's not just with sports, right? We heard a little bit from that with Matt Clapper. We've also heard from Mark Justice about the Science Olympiad, but there's so many other things too. It's not just the band; it's the theater program. It's the PTO. An unbelievable amount of parents, including my wife for years, on the PTO. And we're lucky to live in a community like that where parents are so involved and willing to contribute their time. And it's wonderful that we can harness that energy and harness all that expertise. And that's one of the things I want to do as a board member is make sure that parents are heard, teachers are heard, community members who have contributed for so many years continue to contribute and continue to stay very happy about what they want to put into the schools and into the community. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I would also say too, as a point of specific running, there are a couple seats that are open right now that were not open. Were not previously contested, and this would be the first opportunity for many years that. There's two open seats for people who have not been elected. Unfortunately, one of the people that is stepping down has a finance background. I'm an attorney and a CPA, an active CPA, but have over 2 decades of experience doing that. And when you talk about running, we've got a levy that's on the ballot this fall, and I want to make sure that we have some financial expertise for our spending in our schools as well. So.
Yeah, got it. Understood. So again, I had an opportunity to go through as we put this together in the last couple of days. Your literature, and again, much like the other gentlemen, back to the basics seemed to be something, and you were very specific about the STEM and science, but back to and again the whole. So I think that's a big topic. It seems like that people really do want to get back to the basics.
Yeah, I think Matthew Clapper hit on it a little bit. Our schools are performing great. We have wonderful academics in Hudson. We always have. There is room for improvement. There's been a little bit of fall in the state rankings and national rankings. We're performing great, but we can make some improvements. And I know in my door-to-door canvassing, a lot of parents have brought up early childhood literacy, concerns about where the test scores have been in that. I know that's a bit of a hot topic. But that really is when we talk about getting back to the basics. The basics is focusing on making sure we empower and respect the teachers, making sure that we focus on reading, writing, math, science, history, and doing what Hudson does best, which is academic excellence. And want to make sure that that's where the focus stays, and we never lose sight of that. No matter what the political agenda may be outside of schools, we want to make sure we keep that out, and we really stay focused on what the real purpose is, which is the students, and making sure the parents and the teachers can help the students in their academic excellence.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think we talked about too, there's plenty of places that people can go if they want to get engaged in political discourse and that kind of thing. And unfortunately, hopefully at some point, in the country that whole thing is toned down, but certainly we can impact it here locally, especially in the schools. And again, another thing we just talked to Mark about is teachers, right? And I know it's so critical because I think about it is when kids are in school, it doesn't matter if you're a 2-income household or one, whatever. Yeah. Those kids are at school for 6, 7, 8 hours with the teachers being impacted, and so we've got to support teachers to be in a position to be able to do their job, and we've got great teachers here, right? Yeah. So it's important to support the teachers as best we can.
Without question. I mean, that's where you do your learning in the classroom. You do it outside the classroom too, but the main focus is in the classroom, and that's where we have to empower the teachers to do what they do best. We have to make sure that the teachers feel comfortable providing feedback to the board members and to the administration, and that's, from my viewpoint, where it all starts is really empowering those teachers to do what they do best in the classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And so CPA background, you're a lawyer with CPA background. Obviously, again, the levy is on the ballot at the same time that you are. And again, I think from talking to people that haven't dove in, Hudson has a great history of, again, I don't care if you've got 6 kids or 1 kid in school or empty, people will always step up and finance the schools because it's a good investment in the community. And but talk a little bit about, I know you as a CPA have kind of dove into that.
Yeah, no, it's a big reason why I'm running too, just to make sure again that we have a good financial core on the board, somebody who can talk with our treasurer and make sure that our spending is in the right places. One of the things that I think most CPAs will tell you is independence is the most important thing, right? And one of the things that I can say is coming in as a new board member is that I would have complete objectivity on our spending. And with the CPA auditing background, I think I would do a really good job of being able to tell where our spending is occurring, where we can make improvements. I know a lot of people during the door-to-door canvassing I've done have expressed concerns about the levy. I know here in Hudson we had, all of Summit County, about a 30% increase in our property values, which is going to translate to increased taxes. There's also a property tax levy on the ballot this fall. Our schools are asking for, in just 5 years' time, to spend another $11 million annually, and I think that gives a lot of residents pause and concern. The number one important thing is to make sure our schools are funded. I think every parent agrees on that. The proof is in the pudding that you must fund schools, but we have to fund it responsibly. And when you talk about annual budgets and increasing it by $11 million, I think that a lot of residents want to make sure that we're paying close attention to where that money is going. And I did a little bit of research in preparing for my door-to-door canvassing and preparing for running for school board. I went to the Ohio Department of Education website, compared us to other nearby districts. Aurora, for example, or Brecksville, for example, both neighboring towns, both performed better than us on the state report card, and surprisingly are both performing at a lower cost per student than we are. And so that gave me some pause and concern. I know that the Ohio Department of Education website indicates that Avon is a school that performed almost identical to Hudson in the state report cards. They have 23 less students, I think, and they're actually operating at a budget of $20 million less per year. And so to me as a CPA, I say, well, if there's a $20 million difference, we need to take a very close look at where the spending is going. Is it going to the classroom? Is it being provided to the teachers, or is it going elsewhere? And especially if we're going to put a levy on the ballot, I think it's important that we have fiscal responsibility, and that's a real big hallmark of what my campaign strategy is to make sure that parents understand that if they vote me in, I'm going to be very careful on what we spend. I'm going to make sure that we fund the schools, continue to fund the schools, but I'm also going to make sure that the money's spent in the right place.
And when you talk about, just a little bit, when you say money directed to the classroom, so is that what do you mean? Is that resources? Is it the teacher? What do you mean by
what that really means is we want to make sure that the spending is not on extra things. For example, there could be 6 figures spent on non-curriculum items, right? Things like what's our strategy? What's our overall approach to Portrait of an Explorer? And if we pay a consulting company quite a bit of money on that, is that money well spent, or is there ways that we can take that and put it back into academics and in curriculum? Really stay focused on the students. And it doesn't mean that we're not spending on other activities, as you called them, I think when you were talking with Mark Justice, co-activities, right? Co-curriculum, Right. Whether it's theater, whether it's band, whether it's sports. That's all spending on the children, and that's all part of the overall learning. So I'm very much in favor of that. But we just want to make sure that we're not spending too much money on consulting contracts or things like that that are more administrative and maybe important with regard to the background, but we've got to make sure that we're spending that money carefully.
Yeah, and I would think that when you marry that approach with, and I think I was surprised to know that the test scores were falling, and like we talked about, I'm a competitive guy. I want to be Hudson. I want Hudson to be great at everything, right? And so when I hear those numbers, it concerns me. But I would think the quickest way to counter that would be putting, as they say, lead on the target. let's invest in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're operating at a pretty high annual budget already, and if what's important is making sure our test scores are improving, making sure that our teachers feel like they're being funded and being supported in the classroom, that we take that money that it seems to be spending at a bit of a higher clip than some of our neighboring communities, that we really focus that back on the kids and make sure that it sticks with the kids in the classroom and the teachers.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. We're going to wrap. Anything else to?
No,
You have a great story to tell from the door to door. What's the funniest thing that happened that you can share with the audience? You've knocked on 100 doors. You probably got some great stories.
Well, listen, nothing too
Not
special.
to put you on the spot.
No one's chased me out of the yard yet, so
Okay,
I've been
that's
happy
good.
about that.
Good. Well, good.
But the important thing is just for people to get to the ballot, to get to the polls on November 7th and make sure that they vote, and preferably for me on November 7th, the school board.
Great.
Yep.
All right.
Hey, Matt.
Matt
thanks so much for
Romano,
your time.
thank you.
Yep.
Well, that wraps it up. I appreciate all folks and tuning in to this special program at Hudson Community Television. I encourage you to continue to support HCTV and the fine work that they do, all the programming, the local programming, and appreciate everybody tuning in. This is Matt Palumbo signing off. Have a good day, everybody.